Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Rilus Dana. It's another Friday webinar. So today the topic is trustees. Going to be talking about trustees. What is a trustee? How do you choose a trustee? And what to do if you are a trustee. So all things trustee is the topic today. Today I'm in my Mesa office. It's been a little while since I broadcasted from here. Hopefully the sound's okay. I know last week when I listened back to the audio, it was pretty bad. So hopefully it's better this week. Tried to test it a little bit more before it went live. If you have any questions today and have any estate planning questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to get your questions if I can. And anything estate planning related. Let me share my screen with you. And let's get into it. So before we talk about a trustee, we first need to know what a trust is. So a trust is a legal document prepared by a person, which is called the trustor. I use this briefcase to show the trustor, meaning the boss. Sometimes the trust creator can be called the settlor or the trust maker. The person that manages the trust is called the trustee. And we use this green visor, this green bookkeeper hat to signify the fiduciary, who's in charge, and the person in charge of a trust is called the trustee. Now the person that receives a benefit from the trust is called a beneficiary. So we use this hand to symbolize that. So a trust is a legal document where it names the successor trustee, so who's going to manage things, and who's going to receive things, and under what conditions. So now that we have the basic definition of a trust, let's talk more about the trustee. So it's going to be all about the trustee today, that green visor. All right, so a fiduciary. A fiduciary is a person that's managing money for the benefit of another. Now in a trust, that person's called the trustee. So a lot of times the persons that create a trust, they serve as a trustee. They manage the assets in the trust until they pass away or until their health declines and they're no longer able to manage things. So in a last will and testament, the person in charge is called the personal representative. And in a power of attorney, the person in charge is called an agent. All of those are examples of fiduciaries. They all have that same green hat signifying that they're a fiduciary. All right, so before we talk about how you choose a trustee, which is the topic I want to get into today, I want to talk about what the trustee does first. So let's first get an idea, and then we can talk about the trustee. So if you are in a plan or area, what you do is define the players. So you have the decedent, the fiduciary, so who's in charge, and the beneficiaries. There could be multiple beneficiaries. What is an estate? It's everything a person owns, whether alive or dead. So the fiduciary is a person to whom power or property is entrusted for the benefit of another. A last will and testament controls the assets inside of a person's estate and requires a probate to give the authority to that personal representative and the guardian. I don't think we're going into all of this. Probate. Okay, so if you're the fiduciary, so after you've defined the players, you figured out, so the next step is what are the assets? So is there retirement accounts, life insurance, bank accounts, real estate? So figure out what assets are out there. And then what controls the assets? What controls the assets? So in a retirement account, like a 401k or an IRA, it's common that you have a beneficiary. You name a beneficiary that transfers those contracts. So if there is a beneficiary listed, if there's a person listed as a beneficiary, then that's going to be controlling. Now, if there's no beneficiary listed, then that goes back into the person's estate. So this house, it's showing that the title is in the name of Mrs. Estate, the deceased. She's deceased because she's kind of shadowed there. And there's a trust. All right, so what are the assets and what controls the assets? Assets owned by a trust are going to be controlled by the trust. Assets titled in the name of the deceased are going to be controlled by their estate. And if there's a beneficiary designation, that's going to be controlling. So the fiduciary, they need to figure out what assets are out there, what controls. And then, okay, so if it's in the estate, in the name of the deceased person, if they have a last will and testament, that will be controlling. That will say who's in charge is the personal representative, and who the beneficiary is. Now, what if the person did not leave a last will and testament? Then Uncle Sam's got you covered with the laws of intestate succession. These determine who has priority to serve as the beneficiary and to serve as the personal representative of the estate. And the trust will say who's in charge as the trustee and who the beneficiaries are. All right, so if you're the trustee, after you figured out what the assets are, what's controlling, you'll need to start safeguarding the assets, start collecting things, and start accounting for them, keeping good records. Then you want to collect all the assets, determine and pay valid debts, share an accounting with all the beneficiaries, and then they'll so share an accounting and then divide all the assets. So that's the big picture job of the trustee, to do all of those things. So how do you choose a trustee? Where do you find someone to serve in this role in your plan? Most people start with a family member, so that could be a sibling, a parent, or a relative, someone that you trust to manage money, to manage your assets. So I'd say most people probably choose a family member. Now, what if you don't have a family member that you would trust in that position? A child, you could name a child, an adult child. They have to be over 18 in order for us to name them. But even if they are 18, legally you can name them, but it's usually not a good idea until they're a little bit older. And then I caution against siblings managing for their other siblings. I don't like the trustee being a sibling, saying, I can have my money right now, but you have to wait, or just that can cause some problems. That's why consent. So if there's several children, let's say there's 7 or 8 kids, and the oldest is 18, and the other ones are younger. I don't usually like naming that oldest child as the beneficiary. I mean as the trustee. You can name a friend, a trusted friend can serve in the position as trustee. Or you can name a professional company. So if you name a company, you can start looking at your financial advisor, or where you bank at, or where you hold your money. You can see if they have a trust company. Check with your CPA or accounting company, see if they provide those services. It used to be more often that CPAs would serve in that role, but it seems less often. And some of the older trusts I see, they have a CPA named, but it's not as common anymore. I think a lot of companies don't allow them, so CPA companies may not allow for them to serve as the trustee. Or you could name your attorney. You can see if your attorney is willing to serve as the trustee in your plan. Oops. Okay, so if you choose a bank, let me stop sharing a little bit. All right, if you choose a bank or a company, what you need to look out for is number one, you want to get an idea of what their fees are, and also what kind of service they're going to deliver. Do they have a local office, or what kind of experience are your kids going to have? I know I know some major banks, the trust office is in Texas for like all of the West Coast. So there's not a lot of service, and they can't give you a lot of local help. These some of these big banks and big institutions, if they don't have local offices and local services. So that's one thing to consider. What kind of experience they're going to have, and then it's also just how much do you trust this bank? How much do you trust this institution? They have their policies today. They may lure you in with even low trustee fees today. I've heard of some of the big brokerage companies even saying free trustee fees that they'll serve for free as a trustee. But there's always a fee somewhere. Is what I want you guys to look at and consider. So if you're naming one of these services as a trustee and they're doing it for free, what are they looking for? They're going to make money somehow. They're definitely going to make it somehow. So even though the trustee service may be free or maybe low cost, they're going to make it up in management fees or some other place. The other thing, it's been in the news big lately, is Robinhood is an example of a bank where they're not really a bank, but they just stop selling stocks all of a sudden. Now it may be because of limits that they reached, or maybe other factors, which it kind of seems like it may be that they were shutting down selling stocks to help out their hedge fund friends from the prices being run up any higher. So that kind of just shows you it's an example of be cautious of the financial institutions you choose, and just realize if you choose them, they could change the policies later. So I want to show you our fee schedule for Mott Legal. So we do have a fiduciary services company. So if you'd like to name, a lot of people have been asking me if they can name me or my company as a successor trustee. And for a while I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then after several requests, I finally threw my hat in the ring and started offering the fiduciary services. So when clients are looking for trustee choices, I can show them our services through Mott Legal, and then they can compare that to other places. Now, the advantage of naming Mott Legal, is we're attorneys. We can do the legal work. We have experience that way. Whereas the banks and financial institutions, since they manage money, that's really their benefit. They can help manage your money. So our fees schedule, and if you're shopping and you're looking at trustees, this is important. Estate settlement services. So next we're going to talk about trustee fees, but first estate settlement services. So what estate settlement services is so Mott Legal is named as a successor trustee, and they start serving on the death or disability of the last trustor. So estate settlement is the process of being appointed as a trustee and then distributing all of the assets. So this is going to be the highest level of fee, and this fee is based on a year, and it's based on the size of the assets in the trust. And that's just the best way to estimate how big the job's going to be. This is the way that most banks and companies do it. So the fee for the first $500,000 is 3.5%. That's what we charge. And then for the next $500,000, the fee goes down, and then it keeps going down. So this is estate settlement services. And now trustee services, this is when serving as trustee of a trust that has already been administered, or in the second and subsequent years of estate administration. So for example, if you name us to serve as a trustee of your trust and you want us to manage it until your children turn 30 and they're age 25 when you pass away, so the fee for year one would be this, to set everything up. And then year 2 for the individual trust, it's going to be 1% of the first $500,000, and then 0.5% of the next $2.5 million. So the fees for trustee services is quite a bit less than the estate administration. So if you're comparing trustee services, if you're looking at banks and financial institutions and asking them how much they charge for those services, you'll want to distinguish between those two things. I've seen a lot of places they quote this fee, whereas it's actually a higher fee for the estate administration. Personal representative services, this is if someone names us to be the personal representative of the estate. So if there's assets titled in the name of the deceased person. If we do it right, we don't have a PR. We don't have an estate. We avoid probate. As long as everything's transferred in the name of the trust, that avoids probates. So there is some other expenses as well as part of the trustee services. If we have to sell property, and if there's multiple beneficiaries and things like that. So trustee services, if you're looking at different options, you can name us. We have a conflict waiver. We have to disclose that the interest, disclose that I own Mott Legal and Dana and Associates. It's just making that clear for people that decide to choose us as the trustee. So, all right, so that's what I want to talk about trustees. So what they do, how you find them. So when you're designing your own plan, think in terms of the best person right now or the best company right now. And then estate planning, it's not something that you do just once and you never have to look at it again. We recommend about every 3 to 5 years that you review your plan, or if there's a major law change or major tax change, is also a good idea to change your plan. So think in terms of the best person to serve as a trustee right now, and just know that in another 5 years you can look at it and address it again and see if the person you chose or the company that you chose, they still align with what you would want from a trustee. Thanks everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'll put up some banners here. So you can schedule a free, what we call personal family legal session if you want to get started on your own estate planning to create a trust for your family. Make sure they're protected from probate and those extra stresses, extra costs and extra fees. So you can give us a call today, shoot us an email, send us a text, and we can get you set up to meet with myself or one of our other attorneys to help design a plan for you. Thank you.